Good morning, students. I'm Dr. Madhuri Chatterjee, and we had been doing comprehension. I had already started the comprehension, which is the birth of khadi. And I move on to the next paragraph of the same text. I'll read the paragraph and start explaining to you. The object that we set before ourselves was to able to clothe ourselves entirely in cloth manufactured by our own hands. Now he says that what was the purpose behind laying the weaving meals or spinning meals, the spinning yarns, was that Gandhi wanted that we should be able to manufacture everything by our own hand, and that was the concept of Swaraj. We therefore forthwith discarded. Discarded means we gave away. We removed that, the use of mill woven cloth. Now that is again something very important, which was again part of the Swaraj movement, that we will not wear mill cloths, and they were all discarded, they were thrown into the fire and it was condemned. The imported things or the things from outside which we used to wear, and all the members of the ashram resolved to wear hand woven cloth made from the Indian yarn only. Now, that was the kind of idealism we had at that time, and the people of the ashram were the first one who decided, who resolved, who took the decision to wear hand woven cloth made from Indian yarn only, that is, made from Indian spinning wheel only. The adoption of this practice, the acceptance of this practice brought us a world of experience. Now, when you start something new, you learn a lot of things, and this was a big learning for the people of the ashram also. It enabled us to know from direct contact the conditions of the life among the weavers. Now, when you are going into the grassroots level and trying to produce something, that is when you understand about the fundamental realities, and this is when Gandhi also and the people of the ashram realized the difficulties the weavers of our country face, the extent of their production, the amount of things they produce, the handicaps in the way of their obtaining their yarn supply, and what are the handicaps, what are the difficulties that they have to overcome when they supply their yarn. Yarn is the woven cloth, the thread actually, which has been supplied, the way in which they were being made victims of fraud, and how they were cheated, how they were robbed, how fraudulent practices uh, are there in the process of the weavers faced. Was the cloth for Indian meal was not easily obtainable either from the cloth dealers or from the weavers themselves. The first thing, the first difficulty is that to procure thread, which was not easily available to them, and therefore they were not able to start the thing. All the fine cloth woven by the weavers was from foreign yarn. Now, that was the most difficult thing, because we were under the control of the Britishers, and the weavers used to receive the yarn. Actually, the cotton was being produced in India only and was supplied to England. But unfortunately, the yarn, the thread, were all foreign, and they had to be bought, and that costed the weavers a lot of money, since Indian mills did not spin fine cotton or the counts. Even today, the outturn of the higher counts by Indian mills is very limited. And even till now, even of course, now we have come a long way, it's been almost 100 years, but then it was very difficult. While high counts they cannot spin at all, it was after the greatest um, effort that we were able to find some weavers who condescended. It was with great difficulty when they started looking up, when they started searching, that they found weavers who condescended, who came down and accepted. Condescended is, acceptance, but when you bow yourself, come down and make a deal, so that is condescending. To weave Swadeshi, that the weavers agreed to weave Swadeshi. Uh, uh, Swadeshi yarn, and and only on condition that the ashram would take up all the cloth. Now they said that we will do. The weavers agreed that they would be weaving the thread and the cloth, but somebody has to purchase it, so they needed people. So the ashram people decided that they are going to buy all the cloths. We made ourselves voluntary agents of the Indian spinning mills, so they accepted themselves. They made themselves the voluntary agents of the Indian mills, the cloth which would be procured. This in turn brought us into contact with the mills, and when they did that, they came to realize how the mills are functioning. Mills, of course, you understand, the factories are functioning, and enabled us to know something about their management and their handicap, and also the difficulties which is which comes in running the mills in the factories, the problems with the labors and the management, the problems and the other handicaps, other difficulties. We saw that the aim of the mill was more and more to weave the yarn. Mill wanted to make more and more spun, more and more yarn. Yarn is the fabric, the thread. Their cooperation with the handloom weaver was not willing, but there was no synchronicity, there was no harmony in the process, but unavoidable and temporary. So, the cooperation which they received was unavoidable, had to come. We became impatient, and that made Gandhi and his team very impatient to be able to spin our own yarn. It was a decision then taken that we would spin our own yarn. It was clear until we could do this ourselves, dependence on the mills was the main thing. We did not feel that we could render any service, and they also realized that we cannot give any service to the country by continuing as agents of Indian spinning mills. So, if we continue to work under the spinning, the mill owners, they will not be able to do much work. And this kind of a decision made Gandhi more adamant that he is going to introduce the charkha into the ashram and make the people, and every house, every little house in the country should own a charkha where which they can make their own thread. So, this is how the Swaraj evolved. This is how the thinking of our great leaders started. This was the great thinking of Gandhi. So, now we move on to the questions, and the first question I want to ask you is, why was the mill woven cloth discarded? Discarded means, as I said, give up. So, why was the mill woven cloth discarded? Why were the weavers victims of fraud? What was the problems the weavers were facing? As I said, they had to get the yarn from the foreign mills, and that is going would cost them a lot of amount, so there was a kind of fraud in that. The third question, why was the Indian meal yarn easily obtained? So what happened when the Indian meal yarn was accessible to them, was obtained to them? What is meant by Swadeshi yarn? Swadeshi, you understand, something our own country, Swadesh. Why is it was not easy to leave the dependence of mill yarn? Why it was not? Because why the dependence on mill yarn still there? Because there were not enough charkhas, there were not enough looms, and therefore there was a kind of dependency. So these are the questions which is being raised after this first this paragraph or this comprehension, and then I move to the meanings. The first one is discarded. Discarded means give up. Yarn is the thread. Handicap is of course a disadvantage. Condescending is a lower kind of an attitude, an agreement. Propagate is to spread. Dependence is of course you need the help and support and cooperation of someone. And in debt means you owe someone something. That means you are indebted to someone. You can also check out, as I always say, check in the dictionary, check the meanings in the dictionary, and try to make sentences. First you find the meanings and then frame sentences of each words. And this would be the second paragraph, as I said, of the chapter, but it can also come as an independent comprehension, and I repeatedly saying this is a 25 marks question. So do practice, and then we continue with the same. Thank you so much.